Hi guys, I'm live. How you guys doing? This is a kind of a special live for me because I'm going to combine some things that I learned in Harvey College when I studied science, actually engineering and that kind of thing, and music. And I want to talk about something that can relate the two together. And I'm kind of happy about this. So here goes. Okay, I'm going to talk about harmonics, overtones, frequencies of strings, vibrating and all that. So bear with me. It may seem like a long thing, but let's just try to do it, okay? So there's three factors that affect the pitch of a string. I learned this, I believe it or not, I learned this in physics in Harvey College first. It's the thickness first of all. So thicker strings, lower vibration, lower frequency, that is. Thinner strings, higher frequency. Next is the tightness of the string. Tighter strings, higher frequency. Looser strings, low frequency. Next is the length of the string. The shorter string, higher frequency. Longer string, lower frequency. Well, assuming that the guitar, the thickness of a string on the guitar doesn't change as you play, and assuming the tightness, or that you're in tune, and you don't change the tuning while you're playing, the only variable left when it comes to pitch is the length of the string, and that we modulate by either hitting it open or hitting it on one of the frets. And that makes that open is the longest possible of a certain string, and up the frets go higher in length. I mean lower in length, so therefore higher in frequency. In fact, there's a formula that the frequency F in hertz, meaning vibrations per second, or is 1 over the length of the string. Meaning, if the length of the string doubles, then the frequency goes in down by, it gets cut in half, because if 1 over 2, assuming that you started with 1 over 1 for 1 over the length, if the length doubles, that makes it 1 over 2. That then makes the frequency 1/2, which means it lowers the frequency if you lengthen the string. So here's the catch. Here's the thing that occurred to me today. So let's say you hit an open E string and you have it just open. Well, that's going to have a main vibration of frequency is 1 over the length. So let's say the length is whatever. It's gonna the highest length, the length of the string vibration, the frequency will be the reciprocal of that, or 1 over that. But then if you think about it physically, a string isn't just going to vibrate on its whole length of length vibration. It's going to vibrate it at half that length also, because that if you divide the string still vibrates at half that length, and if the length is half of the original length, then 1 over 1/2 is 2, and the frequency doubles. So you actually have what's called an octave, and that's the first overtone, or second partial, depending on the partial includes the fundamental note, and the overtones only include those that are above it. And then similarly, the string will also vibrate at 1/3 the open length. Well, that would make 1 over 1/3 is 3, so that would make that the pitch 3 times the open string frequency will also resonate, and 3 over 1 is a octave plus a perfect fifth. So you're going to get a perfect fifth ringing out, and that's perfect fifth is the second partial or second overtone or a third partial. Similarly, the string will vibrate in fourths. That makes the frequency 4 times the open vibration, because 1 over 4 is 4, and that would be a double octave, and that is the third overtone or fourth partial. Finally, well, not finally, but it'll also vibrate in fifths, and 1/1/5 is 5, so you're also going to get 5 times the open frequency. Frequency of the open string, and 5 is 2 octaves in a major third, and so that would be the 4th overtone or 5th partial, and then you have the string will vibrate in 6, 6, and 1/1/6 is 6, and 6/6/1 is the interval of 2 octaves and a perfect fifth. And that is the 5th overtone or 6th partial. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, and those first 6 partials, which form root, octave, perfect fifth, and octave, or double octave in major third, double octave in perfect fifth. That actually is called the sonarius. I've had a hard time looking that up, but I know I read it somewhere, and it's a good logical term. It means the sound thing, and all those partials together, if you make a major triad. And so when you play an open string, you literally hear a major triad coming out of it, with the root of that, the triad being the frequency of the fundamental frequency of the open string. Fundamental frequency is the lowest possible frequency, which means you're dealing with the longest length, which is the open length. The other frequencies are also frequencies, but not fundamental. And this is the basis. So that's the basis of harmony right there. And then to go back to engineering, in systems engineering, you have signals that are periodic, and it turns out that you can make any signal you want just by adding sines and cosines, or sinusoidals they call them, of the frequency of the fundamental frequency of the original signal and all its overtones or multiples of frequencies, which means the periods would be cut in fractions. So and then it turns out that whatever particular amplitudes or values are that each of those overtone sinusoids have, that turns out to be something called the Fourier transform. The Fourier transform of a signal is the values of the sinusoids that are a series, an infinite series of sinusoids, starting with the frequency, the fundamental frequency of the periodic function, and then all the overtone frequencies. So it's kind of like a map. You just have, if I say the original frequency, the original periodic signal has a frequency of 10 hertz, then you would have a sinusoid of 10 hertz, and it would have a certain amplitude. Let's say 5 times e to the I, 5 hertz. Actually, usually use radians in engineering, which is not hertz, so you have to have a 2 pi in there. But essentially, if you know how much the value of the amplitude of the sinusoid did I say 10? I think I said 10 of 10 hertz, and then maybe it was 5. I said whatever, and then the double, it would be 20, and then that would have a certain value, like whatever. And then 20 multiples, right? So it would be 10 hertz, 20 hertz, and with some multiples. Yes, then 30, and then 40, then 50, then 60, and all those. And if you know exactly what the amplitude of each of those is, that those amplitude series are the Fourier transform. There's also Laplace transforms, but we use Fourier most of the time. Transform of the original signal, and that Fourier transform is like it could be thought of as a frequency domain version of the signal, whereas the original signal is in time domain. So in systems engineering, you go back and forth between domain and frequency domain to get work done. Like let's say going off a tangent here, but hey, what the heck, right? If you have a signal going into a system, and the signal is in time domain, and the system processes it, and you have then there's an output. So there's an input of t, function of t input. There's a transfer function h, our system function, or h of t, and then there's the output of time, O of t. Well, it turns out if you deal only in time domain, you have to do all these messy integrals to figure out how that system processes that signal. But if you take the first input signal and do the Fourier transform of it, it turns out that the transfer function h of omega, which is frequency, now you're in frequency domain, operates on each individual subcomponent of the original periodic function in a systematic way. If it's a linear time invariant system, which means it doesn't change in time and doesn't give you uneven amounts of output for the same input change, then you just have to multiply that h of omega, the transfer function, what it does to each of those portions of the original signal by a certain number, and that's called the transfer function of the system. And then then when you multiply those together, you get the transfer function. I mean, you get the frequency domain version of the output, O of omega. And then you just do the reverse Fourier transform to go from the output function of omega to the output function of time. So you do an inverse Fourier transform when you're done. That brings you back to what the time version of the output would be. And once you know, and that's the gist. There's a lot of math involved, of course, and it's deeper than it even sounds with me saying it. I'm making it very simple, actually. Hopefully I'm even making it clear. But that's the basis of systems engineering that I studied at Harvard College. The rest is math and crank and learning the formulas and Euler's formula and e to the I theta equals cosine theta plus I sine theta. Those are those cosines and sines again. Theta is an angle, but theta is equal to omega t, because the frequency times the time gives you an angle. And an angle is what is the thing of e to the I theta. That's an angle. Plus cosine theta plus I sine theta. Sines and cosines deal with functions of angles. But if omega is the angle per time, in other words, the rate of change of the angle, and then you multiply by the time, that makes the angle at that time. Omega t equals theta, because omega is theta over t, and theta over t times t. The t's cancel out, and you have theta. That's the Lauren, right? Good to see you. I'm live on my YouTube channel. I'm totally nerding out. I'm combining musical theory with what I learned at Harvard College in engineering.
Very fun.
Yeah, good to see you. You want to say hi? Or are you good?
I'm good.
Love you, Lauren. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye. That's a friend of mine, Lauren. So yeah. Like I was saying, the theta equals omega t. So that means when you say e to the I theta, you can also say e to the I omega t, because theta is omega t, and then that omega is the frequency in radians of that you're dealing with, and time is the amount of time. So the equation e to the I theta equals cosine theta plus I sine theta becomes e to the I omega t equals cosine omega t plus I sine omega t. And that is basically, but you can't say I in engineering because, first of all, I is used for current. And the reason why I is used for current is because C is used for the speed of light in physics. So you can't call current C, so you call current I. Because the square root of negative 1 is I, you can't call it I because I is current, so you call it square root of negative 1j. So now you have the final equation, e to the j omega t equals cosine omega t plus j sine omega t. And that's the full-blown Euler's formula for engineering. So I tied engineering into music theory and overtones and triads and harmony and music. Love you guys. Peace. Rock and roll.